Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's College Playing Tip of the Week. I'm Jack, and with me as always is Nancy Steenson College Coaching. Nancy, last week we talked about music education for kids who want to study some aspect of music education in college. And you also highlight a couple different ways that students could go with music. This week I want to take one of the other paths, music performance. So if a student's interested in studying music performance, what are some tips that you can offer?
Thank you, Jack. This a lot of things students need to know if they are going to be going to college for music performance. First and foremost, it's important to know that applying to the university and auditioning into the music department is two different parallel processes, and they do need to audition in. So first of all, the student is going to be applying to college just like they would for any major. But secondly, they need to know that they will be auditioning. So they must be certainly proficient on their instrument, which of course, if they want to major in performance, hopefully they are. It's important to check each college website for audition requirements. Specific repertoire is going to be requested. It's also important to check that website to see if they require a pre-screening audition before an actual live or sometimes now with the pandemic, non-live audition. That pre-screening audition is more common for elite conservatories. It can also be common for instruments like voice, piano, violin, because they're so very common and there are so many of those students. And so the student would need to submit that first to hopefully then get approved for the full audition. Usually once they're approved, there's a choice of perhaps 3 audition dates or weekends, usually in the first quarter of the year. For that audition, they're looking for talent and skill, but they're also looking for potential and coachability. They're also going to test other skills like sight reading and oral skills. So that will be part of the audition process. And it's important to know that you can be admitted to the university, but not to the music department. And there are often 2 different admissions notifications. So just because you're admitted to the university doesn't mean you've gotten into the music school. As far as preparing, private study with an excellent private teacher in high school is the best preparation for a student hoping to pursue the performing arts at this level in college. Students should also rely on that private teacher to guide them toward the appropriate university or the appropriate studio within the university. For instance, there could be 5 different violin teachers on faculty. You want the one that aligns with your goals, with your learning style, etc. So the top university is not always the best match for that student. It's very individual. It's important to know that once in college, there will be a senior recital and often a junior recital required, and a recital can be up to an hour of a private performance, a solo performance, I should say. So it's a lot of hard work preparing the music, preparing the repertoire over 3 or 4 years to be able to present that. There will also be ensemble participation required every semester. So that might be, a symphony orchestra or a choir or a chorale. And that student, of course, would be auditioning in to be placed every semester into those groups. It's also important to know that many music schools have upper divisionals. So after usually about 2 years of study, there's a check-in, which is very much like an audition, and they want to make sure you're making sufficient progress. If you're not, you can be asked to leave the program. I'm not saying that's common, but it's important to know they're expecting those students to work and improve along the way. Also, it's important to know that similar to a music education degree, there can be less studying, though there's plenty of that, but less perhaps than there might be for an English or a biology degree, but much, much more time doing things like rehearsals and master classes and workshops and practicing. These music students are going from first thing in the morning till late in the evening. They are out straight with all of these commitments. Know that for students who want to major in performance, violin performance, vocal performance, oboe performance, these students are often practicing alone in a practice room up to 6 hours a day. That's the kind of commitment these students have, and that's the expectation. As far as preparing to be applying to these schools, it's always a good idea to reach out to faculty at the schools you think you're interested in to set up a lesson, a meet and greet junior year, and see if it's a fit. And then stay in touch with that person, perhaps take some sporadic Zoom lessons. If you do that, you may end up having a friend on the other side of the desk when it comes time for your audition, which is always great. Going into an audition and seeing a friendly face is wonderful and can really put your nerves at ease. It's also important to know that merit scholarships are often available for music performance students, especially for those very, very talented and for those who play less common instruments like the oboe, like the French horn, like the harp. Piano players, vocalists, and violinists are sort of a dime a dozen. There are so many of them, so it's less common to be getting a merit scholarship. And the last thing I want to talk about is that it's important to know going in that the return on investment is very poor. And that's just the way it is. So if you want to go to college, go make a lot of money, this is not your best option. Most musicians don't make a living as a musician. And in fact, people who are moving toward the classical music world, and that would be what we're talking about here, generally these students move on to get a master's degree before they go on in the performance world. So there's another couple of years of study ahead. So in terms of return on investment, you cannot expect that the student is going to hit the ground running and be making a lot of money, because kind of like in the other fields that are so very selective, not everyone succeeds as a musician. So don't want to end on a low note, but this is something to think about really hard before deciding to go to school and, get a degree in something that you may or may not be able to make a living at.
Well, great information. You're absolutely right, because as much as we might think our students are fabulous piano players or trumpeters or drummers or whatever, not everyone gets to be first chair at whatever orchestra, or not everyone gets to be in the rock band playing some large arena. You're right. So it's something to think about. So if they love it, great, but the return on investment is certainly something to think about. Thanks so much for that information. And thank you all for watching this week's College Playing Tip of the Week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.